Pizza delivery drivers of Reddit. What are some of the craziest reasons people have ended up on the no delivery list? Before we start with the first story, please hit subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. When I was in high school, I had a family order about $40 worth of food. I show up and she gives me a $20. Then she said I must have dropped the other one. When I said that she did not, she asked me, what would I do if I only got $20? I told her that I guess she'd only get half the food. Then she threatened to call the manager and tell them I took the $20. It was my family's restaurant. I told her to go ahead and call my dad and that I would wait. She scowled and gave me the money. I told her not to call back. Story 2. We had a guy and two girls order separately, then grab the pizzas and run. The girls had picked the food up and left while the guy was paying. After 30 seconds, the guy bolted. It was a $100 order. My manager, who was a frequent gym goer, leapt the counter and gave chase. The two girls had gotten into a car with the food, but when they saw my manager, they drove off, leaving the guy. My manager chased him 3 blocks and was gaining on the guy when the girls pulled up and the guy got into the car. Unfortunately, all 3 of them went to school with a kitchen hand at the store, so we had names, jobs, addresses, and Facebook accounts. We contacted them all on Facebook and got them to pay for the pizzas the next morning under threat of contacting police. We also put them on the no delivery list. Story 3. I delivered pizza for 5 years of my life, and I don't have one crazy story. I got bit by a little dog on the ankle once. That's about the craziest thing. The weirdest thing that happened though, this woman would call twice a week and order a pasta to be delivered. This went on for years. Then one night, I'm taking her order and I said, "And you'd like this delivered tonight, I'm assuming?" And she said, "No, I'd like it delivered tomorrow." We both laughed and I said, "I'll see you in 20. I go back to make her order and the phone rings again. It's her. She says, "I'm going to cancel my order. Do you know why?" I was like, no, because you asked me if I wanted it delivered tonight." Then she hung up on me. She never ordered again. I still think about her sometimes. Story 4. Back in 2021, my wife had to bite the bullet and deliver pizza between jobs. When she'd get home at 1 or 2 a.m., I'd get to hear about these people occasionally. Their no delivery bans were people gender irrelevant who opened the door naked repeatedly. Seems to be a common theme for young men and old women. People, mostly men, who would sex pester for phone numbers or follow back to the driver's car. Notapers who would order like $80 worth of pizza every week and not tip. Edgy teenagers who would fail miserably at prank calls. Their number would get banned for repeatedly calling in pizza for Ivana Humpala. Parents would later call legitimately wanting pizza, just to be told they were banned because their dipshit child didn't know Bart Simpson had already done every prank name in the book 25 years before the kid was even born. Story 5. We didn't ban this customer, but I feel like this story fits. I work for Domino's. I took a delivery to a hotel from an order placed online, so the actual customer put in the wrong address, so I delivered to the room number that she incorrectly put. Anyway, a couple opens the door. They're both stark naked, head to toe, and obviously up. They paid for the order. I guess they thought I was a pizza fairy, AK, but it was super awkward. So I get back from the delivery, and the actual customer had called back complaining, so we remade the order. We couldn't ban her, and it's kinda hard to ban hotel deliveries. Story 6. Been in pizza 20 years. It's usually a day drinker that assaults the driver and is generally more sad than exciting. I suppose the most exciting was a dude with shitty stairs and second floor. He was also a general. They wouldn't let us ban him, even though the driver said it was a safety hazard. He eventually fell through the stairs, piss drunk, 12 feet to the ground, and got banned. It was caught on video from one of those trackball Blackberries, and the video sustained me for a year or two. Story 7. Cape Town, South Africa, had an address that was impossible to find, seemed to be an abandoned building in a neighborhood that had drug dealers and illegal liquor stores, alongside regular houses. I stopped my car and got out to ask a resident at a nearby house if he knew where the place was. He informed me that it was a scam. The local gang members ran to rob delivery guys of their cash. My boss then blacklisted the entire neighborhood for delivery. It was on the edge of our viable delivery area anyway. Story 8. When I worked as a driver for Domino's in 1988, I put WVU's head basketball coach, Gail Catlett, on my personal do not deliver to list. He lived about 2 or 3 blocks from the store, and he would write a check for the exact amount of the bill and no tip. That part was fine, just another cheap. But he also had a radio show a couple miles from the store. During the show, we'd give them free pizzas every week, and he'd say something like, The Domino's just arrived. It wasn't an official endorsement, and I doubt he said it every time. Our district manager, who was one of the biggest I've ever known, was the one that told them to call in for free pizza anytime. Delivering to the radio station at night was a pain in the ass, and he never tipped a penny, so I refused to deliver to him ever again. I tell this anecdote every time there's a pizza delivery thread because I want Gail Catlett's legacy on the internet to include him being a cheapskate. Story 9. I was a night owl in college and took an evening delivery job for fun. I had a pretty sweet car at the time too, so I thought it would be a great job. One night, I got sent to a less than nice part of town, and a man much larger than me answered the door. Everything was fine and normal until he looked over me and said, "Nice whip, want it?" I laughed and looked up at him, quickly realizing he wasn't kidding, and gestured to a large bulge in his pants. I felt the blood draining from my face until he whipped out what was not a gun, but in fact, his I bolted back to my car, leaving my warmer bag. Manager banned the house. I left my tip and wasn't interested in which kind he planned to give me. Story 10. My then BF worked at a pretty chill local place for a few years. It was usually a 3-strike-your band kind of pie joint BC. They weren't in the best neighborhood, but they banned a whole street once. BF had stopped at a stop sign and this guy comes up to his car, asks him what he's doing, and then, in the middle of the delivering a pizza answer, the guy reaches into the car window and punches BF in the jaw. The guy wasn't even from the house ordering the pie, but a random guy in the neighborhood. Anyway, punch must not have hurt. BF actually continues down the street to the actual delivery address. They started shooting out the house window when his car pulled up. Customer called the delivery line later to explain he had gotten blitzed out of his mind, forgot he ordered delivery, and thought it was someone coming to rob him. Dude actually asked the shop to send the delivery guy back out. Thus, the whole street got blacklisted. Story 11. Well, there were a few. Over the years, one lady, around 70, kept answering the door with an open robe and nothing else on. This one dude was weird and angry and would call up and just start in with, "You f***ing idiots. If you can get a order right one time," I don't think he knew 2 swear words. And we had to tell new people you can just hang up on him. But from what I heard, when he did get a delivery early on, he was nice and polite at the door. Some weird psychological stuff happening there. The Zeppelin guys were the worst. This weird tall place had to go up 4 stories of rickety stairs, and every time they would wait till I was back down and then yell down at me saying we got the order wrong. They were Zeppelin guys because they always had Led Zeppelin playing pretty loud. They wanted me and others to go all the way back up, take the wrong pizza back, and bring a new one and get it for free. This worked a few times. Managers always wanted to give into it, but then the drivers all sort of briefly unionized on this one point, and no one would deliver to them. So the manager finally caved in and told them not to order anymore. Stairway to aggravation, I guess. Story 12. I delivered to a trailer home right on the edge of a neighborhood of literal mansions. When I knocked on the door, this big drunk dude answered. I gave the name and he said to come in. I was a dumb 20-year-old and didn't think anything of it and went just inside the door. Big drunk dude sat down in a rocker in front of a TV watching that night's game. I asked where the guy was and he yelled down the hall for them. After a moment of them not coming out, he told me they were just around the corner and I just needed to poke my head in to get them. Again, really dumb of me, but I start walking across the living area, and as soon as I get to the hall, this guy comes out of one of the doors yelling at me, asking what the I'm doing in his house. I tell him I'm delivering a pizza for so-and-so, and the other dude told me to come down the hall. He starts yelling again at me. At this point, I already decide I'm leaving with the pizza. As I'm walking out, the guy goes down the hall, and I hear him grab something and start coming back towards me. As I'm getting in my car, I see him standing in the door of his trailer pointing a shotgun at me and yelling to never come back to his house. So I never did, and no one ever will from that Domino's again. Story 13. I, a college-aged white woman at the time, was delivering to a semi-sketch road in town that no one seemed to really know much about. Poorly lit, smaller, not well-kept homes. It was all a bit off in an otherwise pretty middle-class college town. But I wasn't too worried until I made the delivery to a home of dudes who were absolutely stoned. Okay, no worries, happens often, but they can't find their money, then they can't count it, it's taking a while, and they start to notice I'm a female pizza driver. I'm a little nervous, but still fine, until a guy pulls up to the house to come inside and says, "It's a white girl." I was done. I counted back their change, pretty sure I gave them more than they were owed and probably my tip, and bolted out of there like a scared rabbit. I told my manager, and he took the entire street off the delivery map. It was Twilight Zone sort of stuff because no one else had been there before or even heard of this street. My very first delivery ever was to a guy watching porn on a big screen TV, not necessarily common in 2003. It was on pause, but I could still tell. He must have been early into it though, because he walked to the door in his boxers and it was fine. Somehow I didn't quit that night, LOL. He didn't even tip well. Story 14. This one guy wasn't banned as he never did anything wrong, but I really wish he would have been. When the name popped up on the computer, the other delivery drivers groaned. Since I was the new guy, they assigned the delivery to me, and I was thinking, couldn't be so bad. They told me to hold my breath when I got there, and that this guy is a special case where I need to enter the apartment. Normal policy is to never enter. I get to the apartment building, and as I'm walking to the door, the smell hit me. I had never smelled anything like it before. Just a pure attack on my nostrils. Urine, feces, and Lord knows what else. I knocked on the door and hear, "Come in, door is unlocked." As I open the door, the smell gets 100 times worse, and I feel thick, humid air come from inside. When I set my eyes on the customer, it's a large, 400-plus-pound man on a recliner. I'm walking over to him and feel my shoes sticking to the floor with every step. He motions to place the pizza, breadsticks, brownie, and Mountain Dew on a small table beside him. He hands me cash, leaving a generous tip, and I walk out, holding my breath and trying not to gag. I always felt bad for that guy. Later on, I found out he orders a few times a week, and I thought to myself, we're partly responsible for this man's condition. So I wish we'd had banned him for his health, but also so we wouldn't subject any other drivers to that. Story 15. I worked for a pizza place that was near a very large software company. Deliveries to the neighborhoods or offices where all the tech workers lived was usually pretty awesome because they tip rather well. But there was one apartment that started to become a concern for us drivers. The man ordering was always polite, always paid, always tipped $4, and he would have been a perfect customer. He'd order breadsticks and a salad twice a week, and sometimes he'd include a bottle of root beer. Except when he opened his door, you could see an alarming amount of our breadsticks boxes stacked everywhere inside. Not like a few on the counter, and a couple by the trash, stacks and stacks of them. Even worse, it was only our boxes in there. He wasn't just ordering from us often, we were the only place he was getting food outside of work. Now, I've worked in some of those tech offices myself. I know that there's enough decent food options just hanging out in the break rooms that this guy was probably not malnourished. But the way his living space was a shrine of greasy cardboard was a clear sign that this guy didn't have a healthy relationship with our food. Our manager was a really cool dude though, and he heard the drivers joking about the boxes and asked a couple of us, "Is this like a messy guy or a guy who needs help?" We agreed it was probably the latter. So on his day off, the manager went to the guy's apartment with an envelope that had gift cards for several other restaurants that delivered in that area and chatted with him. Manager found out that the guy was an immigrant on a visa who was struggling to find American food he liked and too socially awkward to ask anyone. So he talked with him through a few menus and helped him with some recommendation. Then he helped the guy load all the old boxes into his truck to take to the dump, in exchange for a promise not to order from us more than once a week. For a little while, the manager had a note on the calendar showing the last time the guy had ordered, and a couple times he had to hold his ground and refuse the guy's order. But after that chat, I never saw the stacks of boxes again, and the guy would boast about the different meals he'd had. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like more of this, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your thoughts in the comment below. I'll see you in the next video.